If you're watching this video, that means you've probably seen my previous videos about parenting anxious children. You've probably learned what anxiety accommodations are and how they make anxiety worse for kids. You by now know which behaviors your child engages in that are actually anxiety, even if they don't look like anxiety. And you've learned and practiced giving statements of support and confidence to your child. You haven't taken away any of the accommodations yet. This video is going to guide you on the proper way to start removing accommodations one at a time, very intentionally selected, and with your child's involvement. And you're going to select for your first accommodation that you remove something that you have complete control over. For example, you might decide that you will not check your daughter's heart rate with her before bed as a nightly ritual any longer, or you won't engage in conversations with your son where he is clearly checking to see if he is bad. Both of these are examples of things that you can control, especially for the first removed accommodation. You wouldn't say, well, the plan is from now on, you're going to go to school in the morning, or you're going to only use one soap bottle a month. These are behaviors that the child has control over, not the parents. Now, we need to tell your child the plan. You literally write it out. You make your statements of support first. You acknowledge their feeling with acceptance and empathy. So here's an example from my own life. I know you've been feeling worried about getting to football practice on time, especially because the coaches are strict and they'll make you do push-ups if you're late. Validation. And also, you've seen the traffic in our route before. More validation. So I've been leaving an hour early to drive 3 miles in order to get you where you needed to be comfortably. However, I have learned that every time I drive you that early, I'm depriving you of an opportunity to tolerate that feeling. And I know you can feel that feeling. Therefore, I'm going to leave the house no later than 5:30 for your 6 o'clock practices from here on out. I know this is scary for you, but I also know that handling a feeling of a reasonable amount of uncertainty and risking something is something you can absolutely handle. Since this may be anxiety provoking to you, you might want to check traffic several times or ask me several times to reassure you that we will have enough time to get to practice. I am willing to check traffic one time, no sooner than 5 o'clock. I've decided that when you ask to check traffic again, or when you want to discuss traffic or the time we leave, I'm going to say, honey, I know this feels very scary to you, and I also respect that you don't want to get in trouble. I also know that you can feel a certain reasonable level of uncertainty and risk in life. When the stakes are low to moderate, this is when you practice it, and you can do it. If you continue asking me, I will leave the room or put in an earbud. Not because I'm abandoning you or because I don't care, but because this will give you the impression that I know you can handle your feeling without any reassurance or checking. Honey, you are incredibly responsible and good at controlling what you can control to fulfill your obligations. I believe that developing this other skill to tolerate a reasonable amount of uncertainty and risk is not only something you can do, but also something that will improve your life. I'm not doing this to punish you or because I'm upset. I'm not upset at all. I'm making this change to help you. So in that sample letter, you notice there was no blame on the child. It was only the parent telling the child what the parent is going to do. And it was a lot of support and confidence. If it's talking about emotion, it's support and confidence for the kid. If it's talking about behavior, it's about what the parent is going to do. Some parents add things they learned about OCD, just a couple sentences on the reason they're starting a new protocol. Sometimes it's helpful to start sentences with, when this happens, we will say and do this. Just be clear and specific, as detailed as possible about what you will do in those situations. Never add personality things or other behavioral things about your child. This is about his anxiety, not about grades or disrespect or having a messy room. Don't make it up to the child like, honey, you need to tell us when you're anxious. You as the parent have already determined which anxiety accommodation you're going to select to remove. And you may or may not add in your letter a couple coping mechanisms for your child. You could remind them that slow, deep breaths are helpful for your body to do the rest of the work. But people have success even without that because the body does work naturally. And you're creating the assumption that this is a temporary feeling and they can handle it. And you want to make them know that at some point you are going to choose to not engage if they're continuing to seek reassurance or checking with you. Make sure you tell them that you're not mad at them. And this is not to abandon them. This is to give them the impression that they can handle their emotions without you. Do not check to make sure your child is okay or they're not mad at you. Simply say, I'm proud of you for feeling that feeling when you put the plan in action. There could be a huge negative reaction at first, but there are 2 reasons it will get easier as you stick to it. Number 1, your kid learns that you're business. Number 2, your kid's distress tolerance is improving. Give a lot of praise and encouragement for feeling the feeling, not for engaging in a certain behavior. If your child makes an effort at all, put the spotlight on what he did right, not the tantrum or the anger. Remind yourself that anger is a natural fight or flight reaction, and it's because the child is scared. You can offer support and confidence or ignore it altogether, depending on the situation. You can give small verbal rewards often. Ignore negative things. This is what is called shaping in behavioral psychology. If you focus on the negative, the kid may feel hopeless that he'll be able to do it. Your message is always confidence, that you know he can do it and he's on the right path. Even if a child is pouty or mouthy, there are pockets where he's still tolerating the emotion. Focus on that.